Welcome to the Company Move podcast, where we explore what life outside of the film and television industry could look like by talking to folks who have made the leap. I'm your host, Rennie Pollock, a union second assistant camera person currently living and working in Chicago, Illinois. I'll be learning and growing along with you, so let's go. Company's on the move. Hi folks, Rennie here. Just wanted to give you a quick tech note for this episode. I'm so excited for y'all to meet J.R. Huntington. He's amazing and this conversation was so great, but we did have a few technical issues with his microphone, so you're going to notice a sound change about midway through. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I really hope you enjoy the episode either way. J.R. Huntington and his now wife moved to Portland, Oregon from Chicago in 2009. More than a decade later, he considers himself a champion of the city. And there's nowhere he'd rather be than this beautiful pocket of the Pacific Northwest. J.R.'s background is in film production and design, including work on Portland local projects like Grimm and the Librarians. He has found a harmonious balance with his career as a real estate agent and creator of House Hunter PDX. The creativity, multitasking, and analytical approach required of both are what helped J.R. best serve his wonderful clients and tell the story of Portland. So welcome to the Company Move podcast, J.R. Huntington. How are you?
I am fantastic. Hello.
Hello. We haven't seen each other in years.
I know.
We used to work together in Portland.
Yes. Has it been 10 years?
Probably more.
Wow. Crazy.
I left Portland in 2013.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
11 more than
years.
10.
Yeah, that's more than 10.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you again. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, me too. I'm so happy. You were like one of the first people I thought of when I decided to start this podcast. So I'm so happy that you were available and interested in chatting with me. So let's just start at the beginning. Tell me, what was your job in film? How did you get into it? And what was your experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had a couple different jobs in film. I went to Columbia College, Chicago. I started there in 1998. And in order to convince my parents to let me go into film, I was going to go into the business side of it. So I was going to learn, how to be a producer. So I started with producing, and I did that for maybe 5 years, worked on some TV shows, things like that. I wasn't feeling fulfilled in that capacity. And so, and I wasn't getting paid really either. But I knew that if I got into the union, that my pay would go up and I'd get more consistent work. And so that's what I worked on doing. And I got into the art department in 2005. Loved every little bit of being in the art department. It was extremely creative. It was fun creating these environments. Yeah, after a while, I left Chicago and brought that to Portland.
That was all in Chicago. That was all before you moved to Portland.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a full film career life in Chicago before I came out here. I worked for Second City, a number of movies there, did a couple HGTV adjacent TV shows and things like that. I got burned out there. And that's, my plan was to leave Chicago, leave the film industry at that point, move to Portland and start a whole new life. And that did not happen as planned.
What did your now wife do? Was she also in the business, or your girlfriend at the time?
No. Yeah. So not at that time. She, it's so crazy. She's doing what she was doing before in Chicago, which we both kind of went back to our old jobs. She worked for a nonprofit called Junior Achievement. And so, we both decided we wanted to change our lives, our careers. And so we decided to quit both of our jobs and move out here.
And why Portland? Like, what was the draw of Portland? What made you decide to go there?
Well, if you've ever been in Portland in like mid-spring, when you get that first hit of sunshine and people are just like...
The small sliver of sunshine that hits
Portland.
Oh
my gosh. Yeah, after like 120 days of rain and clouds and everything else. And so we were out here visiting during that week in April 2009.
It got you.
Oh my gosh, did it get us? I mean... Everything was hitting. It was just so perfect. It was great. The city itself was great outside of the people being extra nice because they're getting that good vitamin D. They were just, it was just a great place to be. It was beautiful. We went on hikes. We got some great farm to table meals. It was affordable here. We actually came out here to, and I was with a couple, you probably didn't know him because I know we also have this Chicago relationship too, where you came from Chicago, but we didn't know each other there. Anyway,
Right.
I had a couple friends from Chicago come out here and we shot a couple concerts for my wife Gina's brothers who are in a band. We're gonna make a press kit for them. And so that's why we're out here in April. Why we're here doing all that. We just we fell in love with the city and decided to make a change.
Been what, 20 years almost? Well, how many years now?
Jeez, I
Less than
know, I
20.
know.
You moved
Yeah,
there at the
well,
same
I
time I
mean,
did. I moved out there in 2009 as well.
yeah, this is just so crazy to me because, we have such similar paths. We know we left at the same time. I left the film industry in 2014. You left Portland in 2013. So,
Yep.
I mean, I think it was, did you work on Wild?
I did. That was the movie that I moved to not Chicago, moved to California with.
Okay, okay.
The last day was in the Mojave Desert, and I basically begged to
Yeah,
be on that crew. They weren't going to take me. They were going to take someone else, and she didn't want to go. And I was like, "Can I please be that person? Because I want to move." I packed my car up
yeah,
and moved to LA and like stayed in the base camp PA's the additional bedroom for like a month, and
yeah,
then just basically was kind of homeless
yeah.
for a couple months until I found a place.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
That is crazy. We came here both same time and we left. You left the state, but I stayed here, but I left the industry
Hmm.
on the same job. So I think that's unique.
Very
Pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you start thinking about leaving the industry?
Yeah, so it was on that job. We were down in Bend for a few weeks, and Gina was man, I think she was pregnant with our second baby. We had one, and I was gone for weeks. We were getting our kitchen redone. Floors are all messed up, and so they had to take all the floors up. So literally, there's just floor joists through the entire back half of our house, through the kitchen. The whole living room, everything was destroyed. So my wife and a baby and two dogs were just living out of the bedroom on that level. I was gone for 3 weeks. I wasn't there to help manage anything. I wasn't a good partner at that time.
We were all staying at the Shiloh Inn in
Yeah, we were staying at
Bend,
the Shiloh
Oregon,
Inn. Yeah,
working on the
yeah,
movie Wild. And it was
exactly.
wild.
And it was wild. And, I was having a great time. We were, it's such a cool industry in that you often get to work with your friends, and that was that just exact situation. We were on our off time, we were going hiking and, going out to cool restaurants. I'm calling back to Portland and telling my wife about my day and just hearing about her day. And it's like, I need to be there,
Hmm.
and knowing that I had a second kid coming, it was just getting that much more difficult. I mean, when I got home, we had a conversation and she was like, listen, I'm not saying anything here, but this is really hard. She never asked me to leave or anything like that. But when you see how hard it is for your partner to be going through this stuff, and it's made me think that, I already tried to get out once because it was all consuming. It just took up my entire life. You're on set for 12, 14, 16 hours at a time. You're gone from 5 o'clock in the morning until late at night. You don't really have much else to offer anybody outside of that small community. I had to think, I was like, I already planned to get out. I'm back in, I was able to buy a house. We have insurance, everything we couldn't do, prior to getting back into the industry. Cause I didn't come out here and get right back in. We came out here, I opened a food cart, and, I tried that for a year and a half and then I ended up getting back in.
Okay, so you started a food truck when you first moved out to Portland. Tell me about that. What was the food truck like? How, because Portland
Yeah.
is, if you've never been there, is pretty known for their food trucks, and it just has gotten even bigger
Yeah. Yeah.
since. So,
Absolutely. So 2009, it was kind of like the start of like the big ramp up to get into food carting. And before we came out here, we were trying to figure out our pivot, our new life. And eventually it was going to be, I wanted to be a beer guy. I brewed a ton in Chicago, and I think I created a pretty cool community in Chicago. We had, went from nobody brewing to like, have you ever been to S&A Studios? There's like, a group of staff members there, and there's a lot where a lot of commercials are shot in Chicago and stuff like that. And so
mhm.
by the time I left, there was like 3 or 4 people there that were brewing. There were some other people that are part of, our bike community that were they're brewing. And we started having these parties, and I was like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it. I really enjoy it. Um, and kind of step back a little bit. During that time, before I decided to come out to Portland, I interviewed and I got a job at Goose Island Brewery, and that was going to be my original way out. And I got the job. I start telling everybody that I'm out of here. I'm not, I'm done here. And Goose Island called me and they're like, "Hey, we really want you out here, but we have to hire this other guy. He's been a brewer for like 10 years. He lost his job. He's got nowhere else to go. We got to help our person out here." And I was like, totally understandable. I get it.
It happens in every industry,
It does.
huh?
And I mean, I completely get it. I mean, that's, that guy had put in his dues already, and, he deserved to be, in that spot. Totally okay. Because the result is I looked at Portland, I said, this is my option and I like it. And I'm really happy that I'm here. So yeah, anyway, came out here with that intention to, get into the beer industry at some point. And my way in was going to be through a food cart. I was going to basically start a restaurant. And it was a lot of fun. I met the majority of our Portland friends doing that. And, I think I made about $1 a day. It was just like.
What kind of food? What was your specialty? Like, what was your...
Gina actually went back to school. She went to culinary school to become a properly trained chef. So we had something to offer through this food cart so people would trust that we're making good food. And she was French trained chef and, which was fantastic. We focused on our biscuits. So we were a biscuit cart. So we did biscuits and gravy. We did biscuit sandwiches. And then we also did these like really nice, fresh soups.
Nice.
So we'd offer like 2 homemade soups a day. And it was just kind of on rotation. And, the idea was to basically just, have like a soup kitchen with, like 40 taps, just outstanding tap list and some really cool soups on tap and all that stuff. So again, we stopped the soups, we moved downtown. I turned it into a sandwich cart. So we just did, breakfast and lunch. And I was sitting there like, just like, what am I doing? Like, I can't get out of this situation. I'm just going to have a food cart. Like to make this next leap is just, it's a lot and it's not something I want to do. I don't want to own restaurants. I wanted to just brew beer and, go that route. And so it was such like a kismet situation, as I'm sitting there, like really trying to figure out what my next step is. They're shooting at what was it, not the Governor Hotel, but maybe it was the Sentinel Hotel, which was right across the street from where our food cart was. And, all the work trucks are out there. And I'm like, there's a set deck truck right there. That's my old job. These are my guys right there. Pulling out couches and, everything else to take up into the hotel to make it whatever they're going to do. And I had somebody working in the cart and I was like, I'm going to go over there and talk with these guys real quick, just see what's going on. Like, it's been too long and I miss it. So I went over there. I talked to a guy named Ben Hayden.
Okay.
He was in the car or in the cart he was in the truck. And I was like, hey, I used to do this in Chicago. I'm considering getting into it. And he was like, oh, geez, I need you right now. He's like, can you work next week? I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, you go over there, you talk to Charlie. He's the guy over there. He's going to get you set up to get, your credentials to work on set. And like, I had talked to Charlie a year before because, I wanted to, just kind of do a little day playing work. And he was like, no, you got to live in Portland for 1.5 years before you can become, get in the union. And
is that true?
Well, that's what he said.
I don't know about that.
So he was like, well, I mean, it's on the books, but I mean, you have to be a resident of Oregon for 1.5 years before you can get in the union, all this, all the while, after I get into the union, I'm seeing guys like come up from California or anywhere else, and they're here for a hot minute. They're walking right in the door and getting in the union. So for whatever reason, it took me 1.5 years, but, and a lot of help from Ben Hayden just saying, hey, I need this guy. Stop messing around. Put him on my team.
Nice.
But after that, I mean, the rest is history. I worked hard. Ben really likes people who works hard. He's going to work you on every aspect. So he, put me on commercials, TV, movies. And that was the start of my Portland, you know, work life here in the film industry.
Dope.
Ended up selling the food cart that week. It's the most money I've ever made out of the food cart, was selling it. And I was back in the film industry.
What was the name of your food cart?
We were called the Kettle Kitchen.
Nice.
Yeah, we were over by Adidas on Killingsworth and Greeley.
Okay.
And then we moved to 9th and Alder, that like Washington,
down,
Alder. Yep. Yeah. We were there for the last year that we were running. Nice. So
yeah, I didn't know that about you. That's amazing. Okay. So then you got back in the film industry. So you got out, you got back in. It reeled you back in.
Reeled me back in.
That money will do it. I mean, you kind of told me a little bit about how like your family needed you and it was really hard to be there for your family. So what was the process of exiting the second time?
Yeah. So to come back from Wild and to have that conversation with Gina and just seeing like, she has a full-time job. She was on the director level, this nonprofit. So, she's not helping part-time. She's running the program and, also taking care of a 1.5-year-old and then cooking a baby, getting the second baby ready to go. And it was just too much going on. And it was a pretty easy conversation. I think it was just like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to transition. I'm going to start seeing if I can start taking some classes. I was considering a few different options. Architecture was one of them. Something that I did before I was getting into film. I did that throughout high school and things like that. Worked at architecture firms and took a lot of classes. And that's the direction I originally was going in before film came into my life. But and so I decided to go back that direction. But looking at the whole process of what school was going to look like, how much I was going to have to pay for, that degree, and then what I was going to make when I got, out of the program, it just didn't make sense. I had to make money for my family. I can't take 1.5 or 2 years off. We just didn't have that type of income. So I need to figure out what I could do that I could, hopefully be making money within 6 months or less. Yeah. Or as I was doing it. And, as much as I was making in film. And, I considered selling our house to give us a little padding, moving somewhere smaller until we figure out this transition. And that whole idea of selling this house and what the market in Portland was doing, which at that time was just going, crazy. Houses were selling fast for a lot of money. And I was just kind of thinking, I was like, well, I'm in houses every day. I appreciate architecture. I have that history. Interior design is big for set dressers. That's what I was doing in the film world, where I'd go into any space and create whatever the director wanted it to become. And so having a lot of, design background, started influencing these ideas of maybe I can have some sort of position, in real estate. And I didn't know what. I didn't know if it was going to be staging. I didn't know if it was going to be, home inspections. I have a history of, being a maintenance guy at an apartment complex, and I enjoyed that. I worked for my uncle who was a contractor, and so I was like, I could do a couple different things. And at the end of the day, and this is going to sound kind of crazy to any other realtor out there, but I got in so I could have more control over my schedule. So I didn't want to be dedicated to, working for somebody and having their schedule that I had to attend to, because I knew I was going to have 2 kids coming up here pretty soon. And I wanted to be around as much as I could, to help. And so, I considered the sales aspect of it. And it was a really swift decision from there. I loved the idea. And the more I looked into it, I realized that this was a really good fit. And it's like one of those things where it was so obvious when I started doing it. I was like, wow, this feels so good. It feels so right. And I can't believe it's been 10 years, almost to the day that I've gotten my license. Because I swear it feels like I was on set like, last year, a month ago,
Yeah.
it just, but no, I've been slinging homes for a decade now.
Nice. So what was the
Yeah.
because kind of the point of this podcast too is to give some inspiration because it's been, I don't know if you've been up on what's happening in the film world, but it has been rough since
Yeah.
the pandemic and then the strikes, and now it
Mhm.
just things have not really picked up to the level that they were. There's the looming threat of AI, the possible strike with
Sure.
IATSE and the Teamsters. Sounds like IATSE has made a deal, but Teamsters might not have. So um, there's a lot of folks who feel a little trapped and don't
Yeah.
know how
Yeah.
their skills translate or what to do. So when you decided on real estate, like what was that process like to get your license? Like what steps,
Yeah.
how long did it take? Like
Well, I mean, it's so funny you say, the process of getting into it, because when you work in film, you can't just be a one-trick pony.
mhm.
You have to be pretty dynamic. You don't have a week to figure things out. You have about 10 minutes. And, when somebody wants to do something, you got to figure it out right there with whatever resources you have. So it's a certain type of person that is on these sets that are successful. These are the people that continuously get hired. They're on multiple projects. Um, so I think the individual itself has got to be pretty multifaceted. Um, and so when you go out and you try to explain this to people, when you're like going anywhere, I mean, like warehouse jobs, things that in your mind you're like, I can absolutely kill this. I don't even understand, why I'm not getting hired for these like really basic jobs. And you're like, this isn't the right thing. You don't have this background. You don't have this history. It's like, I can drive a forklift. I know how to, load trucks. I know the logistics. I know how to run multiple crews.
Mhm.
I have, there's just so many certain things. And, I'm a project manager, whatever it might be, but to explain this to somebody who just doesn't understand the film world, it's just completely foreign. All they hear is like, oh, you worked in the movies. That's cute. The end. And they want to hear about your experience there, and you have no chance at that actual job. Um, and it's like, I mean, at one point, we had to recreate the entire Bridgeport Brewing, restaurant inside of a warehouse. And we did that in 3 weeks. I mean, it's like we recreated, I'm talking about working light switches and like just, running electricity. And I mean, it looks exactly like the real place. And and it's huge. I mean, we're talking about 3,000, 4,000 square feet of space that we created. That's not something that anybody off the street can come in and do. So how it translates, really, really difficult to explain to people. I'm having a difficult time here, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but you know what
Oh
I
no,
mean.
the
But
feedback I've gotten
yeah,
on my resumes is that I have an interesting skill set.
yeah,
And,
you're
and
like,
that is my rejection letter. That's
yeah,
the kind way to tell me I don't know how to use
yeah,
you.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like I think part of this podcast is like also just exploring like what how do we
Yeah.
talk about what it is that we do?
It's so hard. But I think when I found when I was going through and I was getting rejected from all these places, because I mean I was just going everywhere, anywhere. FedEx,
Hmm.
FedEx wouldn't hire me. You know what I mean? Like that's nuts. And so when I thought about real estate, that the aspect that was appealing was that nobody out there is going to tell me no. I had to make it work for myself. I said, hey, that might be the best chance I got at making something work. It's this because in real estate specifically, this is your job. This is your business. It's not somebody else's business. The only thing that my brokerage does is holds my license. The business of House Hunter PDX, my my real estate name out there is Eldridge Huntington, which is my legal name. Uh, it's all me. If this is what I've created here, and this is why I'm allowed to work, because it's something I created. It's not something that somebody has given me. So that was the way that I had to make it work for me. Because it was just really hard to get hired anywhere else. And even now, running my own business, and it being a successful business and having all those skill sets in film, I swear if I still go back out there, I'm still like basically just it's hard to hire me. Which is just really unfortunate, because I really think that, we are coming away from having these college degrees more and more as we get into, what these other industries are looking like, as we evolve past student loan debt and everything else, because I swear, that'd be definitely one thing I would take back if I could is, the traditional college experience that I had cost a lot of money, and it didn't really transfer to anything else that I'd done after that. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of people are struggling though too, who didn't go to college and won out of the
Mhm.
film industry, and people really look at that bachelor's degree. I've had people be like, "Oh, so
They
it looks like
do.
you have a bachelor's
Mhm.
degree." It's like, "Yeah, I went to college 20 years ago."
Yeah,
I don't remember
right.
anything.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I was a whole different person then.
Yeah.
Different ideas. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just you know, that encouragement that I would give anybody out there, and I have. I mean, there's so many people when that since I've left, that I've talked to, and hearing about the struggle and being like, what are you going to do next? It's just like pick something and go with it, and just work your way up over the next couple months. Because I mean, the skill sets you've developed over the last decade or 15 years of working in film will translate. You just have to show them. You have to give the opportunity to show somebody what you can do. Um, is that you're just a super resourceful, dynamic person that can just pull off just about anything that's in front of you. So, um, you know, it's it's hard to get there, but when you're there, it does work out. Try try real estate. I don't know. I'm happy to talk to you about it.
So the process of getting your license, how was that? Was that expensive? Was it long? Was it
Hmm.
difficult? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, honestly. And I think the whole idea about getting a real estate license is that it's difficult enough to weed out the people that shouldn't be out there doing it. A lot of the information on your real estate exam is not the information that you actually use as a realtor. A lot of people compare it to like taking law classes, and you go through a lot of contract stuff. You have to go through a lot of information that you have never seen before or understand, and make a lot of sense of it in multiple different ways. And so they ask you these questions in multiple different ways throughout the test. And a lot of people don't get through it, and they can't get past that hump. I mentor people now to get into the real estate industry, and that's the biggest issue. Just some like these are very intelligent people, but it's just really hard to get past that exam.
Hmm.
And once you're in it, you know, again, nobody's handing you any business. People aren't be like, here, you got to sell this house. You have to go find these people. And if, you probably need to sell 10 to 15 houses a year in order to make a living. So if you can find 10 to 15 people that you do not know every single year to trust you with, hundreds of thousands of dollars and very big decisions, then, you got something going for you. And you deserve to be there. So, it takes, again, a unique person to pull it off. But again, I think that the skill sets that I had in film helped me to get through a lot of these things. I have no idea what to expect, with these vast legal questions that were being asked and everything else. But you just keep at it. You keep learning. You know, through just uh, listening and watching people around you, and just going through the literature, and just your head in the book. And it took me 3 months to uh, get to the point where I was comfortable enough to pass the exam, and then I did like another 3 months of mentorship, and then I had kind of like Like I worked with somebody for another 3 months or so, and then we basically started a partnership from there. And so that was my first year and a half in the real estate world, was working with another realtor after testing and everything else. So I guess if I had to sum it up, the test is difficult. You put your mind to it, you can do it, and you get out. Just link up with somebody that's going to be a teacher, and the rest will work out. But again, it's a hard business to be in, just
Yeah.
like film was a hard business to be in. This is,
How did you find a mentor?
I lived in a neighborhood called St. John's in the north side of Portland, and my insurance agent for the food cart that I had was a part of the St. John's business society or community or what have you. So when I was talking to him, it was like, hey, there's somebody that sits on our board that's a realtor. If you want to talk to somebody, can talk to her. And so I came to a meeting. I talked with her, and she was like, oh, yeah, there's somebody right down the street that runs a mentorship program through this brokerage, and I think she'd be a great fit. You talk to her, yada, yada, yada. I end up working with her for the year and a half. And, she was great to have as a teacher. Naturally went our separate ways, and I started my own independent business, and she kept on with hers. And that's been 8 years ago already. So yeah, it was just really just getting out there and talking to people and seeing who could help me get to the next step.
That's awesome.
So now I'm trying to do that for other people. So now it's like, hey, if anybody wants to know more, give me a buzz, and I'm going to walk you through the process. I'll help you study. I will help you get through, the testing. And then when you're done with the testing, if there are leads to be found, I'm going to teach you how to generate leads, how to work on your sphere, which is basically how you cultivate and maintain your clients. And then, how to actually do this in a way that you can do it, for the next 20, 30 years, because you will burn yourself out if you hit it hard and just, you have no regulator, which is really easy. Working 16-hour days in the film, that's how our minds work. It's like, no, I'm up, I'm working, I'm not going to stop.
Right.
And,
it's a
but
drug.
it is, and it's not, but that's not reality. And I thank God for my kids and, my wife and everything else. It's like, hey, we're having life out here. Would you like to join us? Yeah, I would. I'm not on set. I'm here in my office, which is at my home. I can participate. So that's been a great aspect.
That's awesome. I have a feeling we might get some people sending some people your way after this conversation.
Yeah.
We'll put your contact information in the show notes, or what you're willing to share.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy to have a chat. That's for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything you wish you would have done differently that you would suggest for other folks?
I heard somebody say this recently, is that there isn't anything I would change. Now, there's things that weren't easy that I didn't like, but I think you need the bad with the good, because they're part of the learning process. And, I think everything was great. If there was anything, it's like, no, I shouldn't have got back into the industry, when I got back out here. But when I did, I met a lot of people that are still my friends today, that I really enjoy. And honestly, those folks, called on me to help them buy houses when I decided to leave the industry. They still call today. Everything kind of happens for a reason, maybe, possibly. I don't know. That's an easy way to say, hey, it worked out. Yeah, I don't think there's too much that I would change. It was hard, and I appreciate the work required to get over it.
Nice. Is there anything you miss about set?
Oh my God, there's so many things I miss about set, which is also, great. Like, I don't regret, having done it. But I think the biggest thing is showing up to a place and somebody, this is just like a blown out warehouse with no lighting. There's rats running around. It's just god awful. And they're like, we need to make this look like a luxury penthouse. And they're like, okay. We'll do it. And it's like, oh, but in right next door to it, we need to have like a crack den, and then we need to have a hospital. Can you do this? And you're like, yeah, I'll do it. It's really being able to use your imagination and bring all this, this wild stuff in your head to life. I'll put it out there. I do not like this person, Very difficult to work with because they push you hard, and but Michael, I worked with Michael Mann, and one of the greatest compliments that I've ever gotten came from him. And I spent a couple days recreating this garage where these hitmen, henchmen were meeting to discuss this stuff. And I put reading glasses on the table and the paper where they've been doing crosswords, and the coffee's out. So you have to live the lives of each of these individuals and how they were in this space. And he came in there and he was just like, this is exactly what I had in mind. This is perfect. And you're like, oh my God.
You're like, I pleased Michael Mann.
But you please somebody, but it's just but I mean, there's so many people involved with, the writers and the production designer and all these folks that had this idea and this, but it's up to you to deliver it. And then you do. And I was impressed with it myself before anybody got there, but just to have that, that pat on the back was cool. And, that happens throughout your career. That happened to be one that really sticks out for me because I remember every day being really hard. And I wanted to just walk away. But, honestly, that kept me there for another month or so. And
what show was that? What movie was that?
That was Public Enemies.
Was that in Chicago?
Yeah, that was all. It was Chicago, Wisconsin.
Yeah, okay.
I think they went to the Palm Desert for a while. So
very cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I miss creating those environments. I miss the people a lot.
I'm not even going to ask you if you're thinking about going back ever, because I can tell. I can tell you're not.
There is absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
I have little mini nightmares about being back on set. And this is the crazy thing. It's so physically, it's such a physical job that, I'm, 43 years old. And one of the reasons why I got out was I don't think I can do this in my 40s. I don't think, there's people out there that could or that were. But it was just it's such a toll on your body. And I was like, I don't think I could do it if I wanted to anymore.
I tore my rotator cuff in 2 places, and the day after my 40th birthday had shoulder surgery.
Fun. Yeah, that's right up the alley.
I was like, welcome to your 40s. So yeah, I'm still in it. I'm still a camera assistant.
Yeah.
It's still my life, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get out.
Yeah.
This is part of the journey.
Well, think about real estate.
Maybe we'll have a conversation offline. I have 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
What would you say to what would you say about film people to employers looking for good candidates?
Yeah, I mean, if you're an employer out there looking for a good candidate, I think you would have a very deep well looking into folks that are coming out of the film community. It is a unique skill set and a lot of different hats that these people wear. But again, I think that the people coming out of the film world are pretty dynamic people. Let it go beyond that first conversation, put them to work and see what they can do, because I have a pretty good idea that you're going to be impressed. It's the type of people that come out of there. It's the character of these folks that I think are second to none.
And then do you have any parting words for your fellow former or still in the industry folks that are looking to make a career?
Absolutely. I definitely didn't think that I had an out, and I attempted multiple times to get out of something that I love to do, but it just wasn't the right setup for, my life moving forward. Have faith in yourself. Anything that's this big is not going to be easy. So just keep at it, keep on it, keep thinking about it, and just do whatever it takes to try to get yourself into a place that makes you truly happy. Because like I said, I was amazed at how happy I was once I got out of something that I love to do. But just to see that there is still a lot out there outside of film, that you're not stuck, you're not pigeonholed, you have a lot to offer. But unfortunately, it's up to you how to explain those things to people that know nothing about what you can offer. So, you have options. they're out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JR, for taking all this time to be on the podcast. We'll put all your information that you're willing to share in the in the show notes. Oh, and then how can we find if you want to buy a house in Portland, how do we find you?
Yeah, well, my name is Eldridge Huntington, and my business is House Hunter PDX, and you can pretty much just type that into a web browser and it'll pull me up. And if you're on Instagram, it's House Hunter PDX there as well. So if you have any questions or anybody's looking for anything, I want to be a resource is what it is. So happy to have a chat.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Company Move is produced by me, Rennie Pollock, and is produced and edited by Robin Lavecchio. Thanks to Selena Persiani for designing our graphics. Our theme music was written by Cliff Beach and performed by Cliff Beach and Alex Nestor. You can follow Cliff on Spotify. Our interstitial music was composed and performed by Gabe Rosen. A special thank you to Keaton Susky for naming our podcast. Have questions, suggestions, or want to be a guest? Write us at companymovepod@gmail.com. and follow us on Instagram at Company Move Pod. Please follow and rate us on whatever platform you listen to us on. That's a wrap for this week, y'all. Thanks for listening. Come on back next week for a new episode of the Company Move Podcast.